Hello, beautiful people of the internet. How are you doing today? My name is Jackie and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today in this video, I'm going to be talking about my entire historical mystery TBR. Now, I say I'm going to be talking about my entire TBR. That's not technically true. I think I'm going to have to make this a two-parter because I have around 40 historical mystery books on my to-be-read shelf on Goodreads. I wanted to make this video because I need some help deciding which of these books I should read first. Most historical mystery novels are in a series, and obviously I don't want to be reading 40 different series at the same time. That would be very confusing. But I have discovered in the past 2 years that I love a good historical mystery. So much that I decided I was going to write one of my own. It has everything you could possibly want. It has history, it has mystery, it potentially has a delicious slow burn romance with lots of banter. Like, that's a recipe for an amazing story. And there are so many historical mystery series out there that sound interesting and I've heard good things about. These books take place in different eras throughout time, and I'm just really excited to read some more in this genre. I also think it's important, since I want to write one, I need to basically read a whole bunch of historical mysteries to know what's already out there and what I'm getting myself into, sort of. But because so many of these books are series, it's really hard to know where to begin. So basically, in these two videos, I'm going to be talking about all of the historical mystery books on my TBR, and I want you all in the comment section to let me know. Have you read any of these? Did you like them, dislike them? Are there any that maybe you haven't read, but you just think they sound interesting, so you want me to read it so I can share my thoughts with you? Let me know in the comment section so that I have a little bit of guidance as I embark on this reading journey. I have decided I will talk about these books in chronological order, starting with the one that takes place the furthest in the past. So in this first video, I will be talking about all the historical mystery books on my TBR that take place in ancient times, medieval times, and also the Georgian and Regency eras. There is only one series on my TBR that takes place in ancient times. These are the Flavia Albia mysteries by Lindsay Davis. The first book is called The Ides of April. Honestly, I don't know if I've ever heard anyone on booktube talk about these, but one day I was in a bookstore and I just randomly picked up one of these books because it looked sort of interesting from the cover. And when I read the plot description, my interest was piqued. This is a historical mystery series that takes place in ancient Rome, and that concept to me is just so cool. I really don't know anything about ancient Rome, to be honest, other than just like a very base level of knowledge. So it's not a time period I know a lot about, but I think it would be really interesting to read a historical mystery set in this time period with a female main character. I would be really interested to know, how does one go about solving a crime in ancient Rome? Did they have any sort of investigative force back then? I really don't know, but I would think it would be really interesting to learn more about their society through a historical mystery. So now let's jump into the medieval set books. The next one chronologically is Mistress of the Art of Death by Ariana Franklin. This is the first in a series, and this book came onto my radar because when I first discovered that I like historical mysteries, and it's evidently an entire subgenre that I didn't know about until recently, I started looking for recommendations, and somebody in a YouTube video said that they really recommended this series. This series takes place sometime in the 12th century. I couldn't find a specific year, but the basic premise of this first book is that there is a serial killer who has murdered several children in medieval Cambridge. King Henry II, the King of England, wants to get to the bottom of these crimes, and so a master of the art of death from Sicily is sent to assist him. However, it turns out that this master is actually a mistress, a young woman named Adelia, who has trained in the art of death. She is basically a medieval version of a medical examiner. One good thing about this series is it's only 5 books, and I know that sounds weird to say only 5 books, but some of the other series on my TBR are like 10, 15 books, so yes, 5 does seem like a small undertaking by comparison. This next one, I actually have a book to hold up because I just bought the first book in this series. If you watched my Come Book Shopping with Me video, you'll know what this is. I just bought The Queen's Man by Sharon K. Penman, which is the first in the Justin de Quincey series. These books take place in England in about the same time period as Mistress of the Art of Death. This first book takes place in the year 1193. I say they take place about the same time. I guess that's misleading. They take place about a generation apart because in this series, King Henry II has passed on and his son, Richard the Lionheart, is now King of England. Justin de Quincey is enlisted by the Queen Eleanor of Aquitaine, Richard's mother. Her son has just gone missing and people are accusing her youngest son, John, of trying to usurp the throne. The plot description on the back says, Epiphany, 1193. Eleanor of Aquitaine sits upon England's throne. Her beloved son, Richard the Lionheart, is missing, presumed dead, and the court whispers that her younger son, John, is plotting to seize the crown. Meanwhile, on the snowy high road from Winchester, a destitute young man falls heir to a blood-stained letter pressed into his hand by a dying man. The missive becomes Justin de Quincey's passport into the Queen's confidence, and into the heart of danger, as he pursues a cunning murderer and jousts with secret traitors in Eleanor's court of intrigue and mystery. This also, I believe, is a fairly short series. I think it only has like 3 or 4 books in it. And I have read Sharon K. Penman before. I read her massive novel, The Sun and Splendor, about Richard III. I really enjoyed that one, so I definitely want to start this series because then I get to read another book by her again, but this one is much shorter, so I think it'll be a little more manageable. Next, I actually have 2 series by the author Candace Robb, and what really intrigued me is that both of these series take place in medieval York, and I am planning a trip to York with my father for 2023, so I think it would be great to read a book set there while I am on that vacation. The first series of hers on my TBR is the Owen Archer series, which is set in 1363, and there are 14 books in this series. Looking on Goodreads, the most recent book was published this year, so there might even be more coming after that one, I'm not sure. Definitely a serious undertaking here. This series follows Owen Archer. He has been wounded in war, I believe in France, and now upon his return to York, the Archbishop enlists his help to solve 2 murders at a monastery. The other Candace Robb series on my TBR is much, much shorter. This one is only 3 books long. This is the Kate Clifford mystery series. The first book is called The Service of the Dead. This takes place in the year... It says book 2 is 1399. I'm not sure about book 1. But so the late 1300s, and Kate Clifford is a widow who needs to find a way to pay off her late husband's debts. She decides to open a guest house in medieval York. However, when one of the guests turns up dead mysteriously, she begins to investigate the crime. Talking about murder at a monastery also reminded me that I forgot to add The Name of the Rose by Umberto Eco to this list. That's a standalone. I believe it won the Pulitzer Prize, so I'm not really gonna give a long description of that one. I need to read that one as well, and it's very chunky, but hey, at least that one's a standalone, so it's not like I'm embarking on a 14-book series. That's a lot of books. Next, I have the Giordano Bruno series by S.J. Paris. This is a series I really have not heard much about, but I saw that my library has it, and so I figured, hey, add it to the TBR. The first book in this series is called Heresy, and the plot description describes it as a blockbuster historical thriller delivering a page-turning murder mystery set on the 16th century Oxford University campus. That sounds pretty intriguing. This series includes 6 novels and also a couple novellas. The main character, Giordano Bruno, is recruited by Francis Walsingham, the spy master to Queen Elizabeth I. Next, another one that I own physically, the Matthew Shardlake series by C.J. Sampson. The first book is called Dissolution. This is a series of historical mysteries following lawyer Matthew Shardlake in the Tudor era in England. This first book takes place in 1536, I believe, around the time of the dissolution of the monasteries, and Shardlake is enlisted to solve the murder of Cromwell's secretary, I believe. I read the first chapter of this for that Try a Chapter Historical Mysteries video I did, so I will link that in the card if you want to check it out. I did enjoy the first chapter, and I definitely want to read this soon. It's been on my TBR for quite a while. I discovered this before I even knew how many historical mysteries were out there. When I studied abroad in England, I was in a bookshop. I saw one of these books, picked it up, and when I realized, oh my god, this is a murder mystery set in the Tudor era, I was just sold because I love murder mysteries and I love the Tudors. So put them together, it's got me written all over it. Now, another Elizabethan murder mystery series is the John Shakespeare series by Rory Clements. The first book is called Martyr, and it takes place in the year 1587. This first book sees John Shakespeare, who is referred to in the description as Elizabethan England's most remarkable investigator, investigating the murder of one of Queen Elizabeth's distant aristocratic cousins who is found burned to death. This series includes 7 novels and 1 novella. The last book was published in 2015, so I think this is a completed series. And the last book I want to discuss in this section is a standalone, though it is almost 700 pages. This is An Instance of the Finger Post by Ian Pears, which is set in the 1660s following the restoration of the monarchy. To be completely honest with you, I don't really remember what this book is about. However, I saw Janelle from Too Fond of Books refer to this book in a video as her favorite historical mystery of all time. And when somebody praises a book that highly, that makes me want to read it, right? Like, if it's the greatest historical mystery of all time, then I guess I gotta check it out, right? I am kind of scared because this book is 691 pages. That's a chunker, but I guess 700 pages in one book is not as serious an undertaking as 14 books. So maybe I should just suck it up and read it. I don't know. Now, my Georgian and Regency era historical mystery TBR. I'm gonna try to go through these ones a little quicker because I feel like I've already been talking for a long time and I have family coming over, so need to pick up the pace a little bit. The first one is another standalone, Daughters of Night by Laura Shepard Robinson. This book takes place in 1782. In this book, the main character, Caroline Corsham, discovers a dying woman at the Vauxhall Pleasure Gardens. The Bow Street runners come to investigate her murder. However, once they discover this woman was actually a prostitute, they sort of stop caring about what happened to her due to the stigma around prostitution. So Caroline decides if they're not going to take this woman's death seriously, she's going to get justice for her, whatever it takes. I don't remember how I first heard about this one exactly, but I think the plot sounds really interesting, and hey, it's a standalone, so that's good. Next, I have the Jane Austen Mysteries by Stephanie Barron. Yes, everybody, this is a mystery series where Jane Austen solves crimes, and the second I learned this existed, added to TBR, because if you know me, you know that I love murder mysteries and I love Jane Austen, so this is combining 2 of my great loves into one series. This is also a very long series. It has 16 books in it. The first book is called Jane and the Unpleasantness at Scargrave Manor. This is a very long series. I do want to check it out though, because it just sounds like something I would really like. So maybe in an upcoming Jane Austen July, I will work up the courage to start this very long series. Next, I have another Jane Austen-inspired murder mystery novel, The Murder of Mr. Wickham by Claudia Gray. This is a standalone novel that takes place many years after the events of Jane Austen's novels. Emma and Mr. Knightley are throwing a house party, and the other Jane Austen couples are all invited. Also in attendance are Juliet Tilney, the daughter of Catherine and Henry Tilney from Northanger Abbey, and Jonathan Darcy, the son of Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy. Mr. Wickham shows up at this party uninvited, and he ends up dead, with everybody at the party having a reason to potentially want to kill this awful man. Juliet and Jonathan reluctantly team up to solve the crime. I mean, the second I saw the title of this book, I knew it was something that I wanted to read. Again, I love Jane Austen, I love murder mysteries, and Mr. Wickham sucks. So this book sounds really good. I have heard mixed reviews for it. I know a lot of people have read it already, so if you have, let me know what you thought of it in the comments. Would love to hear your thoughts. Next, I have Belfield Hall, or The Observations of Miss Dido Kent, the first in the Dido Kent mysteries by Anna Dean. This is set in 1805, and it follows spinster Dido Kent. She is asked by her niece to help her when a murder takes place. I believe at the niece's engagement party. I could be wrong on that. This is another fairly short series, so it's not as much of an undertaking as some of these 15-book series I have on this list. And this originally came onto my TBR when I was looking up historical mystery recs on booktube. I saw someone recommend this as one of their favorite mystery series. The first book is not rated super highly though, which does worry me a little bit, but if anyone else out there has also read this book, what did you think of it? Next, I have the Lily Adler mysteries by Catherine Shellman. The first book is called The Body in the Garden. These books take place in Regency era London. The first book takes place in 1815. I believe this is also a recent release, so this series is currently in progress. Independent-minded Lily Adler is returning to London high society after the recent death of her husband, and in this first book she is attending a party thrown by her friend Lady Walter, but what she's not expecting is the dead body that turns up in Lady Walter's garden. This series has 3 books so far, the first of which was published in 2020, so this could be a good ongoing series to read, and I love Regency era stories, so this could be a good one for me. This next one is a little different from the others on this list because this is actually a time travel historical mystery. The Kendra Donovan series by, I already forgot her name, Julie McElwain. The first book is called A Murder in Time. This has also been on my TBR for a little while. When I was studying in England, I was looking for a book on Libby app, and I saw this. The premise I thought was really intriguing, so it's been on my TBR ever since, though I don't think I've ever actually heard anyone on BookTube discuss these books. Maybe they're a hidden gem? Possibly? I don't know. So this first book follows modern-day FBI agent Kendra Donovan, who finds herself somehow transported back in time, and she has to solve a murder mystery at a Scottish castle in 1815. Next, I do want to read the Rexford and Sloane series by Andrea Penrose. The first book in the series is called Murder on Black Swan Lane. That book takes place sometime at Regency London. I didn't write down a year, so I must have not been able to find one. This series is also currently in progress. I think there's like 6, 7, 8 books out already, and I've heard a lot of people say this is one of their favorite historical mystery series. I think someone might have even commented on one of my videos about it, encouraging me to read it. The main character, the Earl of Rexford, is suspected after one of his rivals is found murdered, so he sets out to clear his name, and along the way he enlists the help of political cartoonist A.J. Quill. However, he finds out that A.J. Quill is actually a pseudonym for the widow Charlotte Sloane, who becomes his reluctant ally in his quest to find the true murderer. Yes, so looking on Goodreads, there are currently 6 books. The most recent one was published just this year, and it says in the description that this series is rich in historical detail and international intrigue, plus a touch of romance that readers of Amanda Quick and Deanna Raybourn will savor. I do really love the Veronica Speedwell mysteries by Deanna Raybourn, and I love a touch of romance in my historical mystery, especially if it involves banter, so I'm sold. I will have to read these at some point. And the last series I'm going to discuss in this video today is going to be the Julian Kestrel mysteries by Kate Ross. This is the first historical mystery I ever added to my TBR. I added this back before I knew that historical mystery was a genre. I don't remember how I first heard about them. I think I might have just seen them on Goodreads. This series follows Julian Kestrel, a Regency-era dandy. The first book is called Cut to the Quick, and the setting is 1820s London. Like I said, I added this book to my TBR years ago before I knew truly how many historical mysteries are out there. So at the time when I saw this book, it was such a novel concept to me, and I was so excited because, you know, just historical mystery has me written all over it. I did not know all the possibilities that were out there. I do know, however, that the author Kate Ross did tragically pass away, so if there's anyone out there who has read these books, do you think they're still worth my time? Does the series end on a very unsatisfying note because of her death, or do you think I could still really enjoy these books knowing there's never going to be any more? Okay, so that's it for this video. Perfect timing because my family just arrived. In part 2, I will discuss the books on my TBR that are set in the Victorian era / the Gilded Age, the Edwardian era, and the 1920s, so keep an eye out for that. If you have read any of these books or any of them just sound interesting to you, do sound off in the comment section. I would really appreciate your help in deciding which of these I should read next. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more from me. I post new videos every Wednesday and Sunday. My social media links are down below if you want to follow me on Tumblr, Instagram, or be my friend on Goodreads. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a marvelous rest of your day. Bye, and I'll see you next time.